Hello and welcome to this edition of Ask the Expert. We are broadcasting live here and on YouTube. Today we have a very distinguished guest with us, Mr. Vivek Wadhwa. Mr. Wadhwa is the Distinguished Fellow at Harvard Law School's Labor and Workforce Program. He's a Distinguished Fellow and Professor at Carnegie Mellon's College of Engineering. He's the author of 4 books. He's also held appointments at Duke University, Stanford Law School, Emory, and Singularity University. But that's just the beginning. He's also been named as one of the world's top global thinkers by Foreign Policy magazine and a leader of tomorrow by Forbes. I could go on and on, but let's start the conversation by welcoming Vivek. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it's really a pleasure to have you here. I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions coming up. But to start the ball rolling, let me start by asking you that, given this pandemic, how do you see the education, the higher education thing changing? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the questions in place. But how do you see this pandemic impacting higher education across the world? And more importantly, what fundamental changes can we expect in the way the student community worldwide looks at studying abroad?
The change already, it's like a tornado hit the education sector, because for the last 3 months, we've been teaching online. I mean, this whole semester, I've been teaching online because, I'm in Silicon Valley, at Carnegie Mellon University, and we have a lot of Chinese students. So at the beginning of the semester, when I started reading about Wuhan, I checked the background of some of our
Mm-hmm.
students, and several of them, I made it optional for our students to be in class physically, because at CMU we have very good video conferencing facilities. We have several cameras in every room, and we can broadcast over, online. It's actually over Zoom. I don't trust Zoom, but it's over Zoom. And so what I did was I made it optional, and about half of the students took us up on it. A few weeks later, the university said it's mandatory now for everyone to be teaching online. So we've had to restructure our entire curriculum. I mean, I was ready for it. My son Tarun teaches with me, Tarun Wadhwa teaches with me, and we redid our entire curriculum so we could teach it online. But the rest of the university was in shock. The professors had no idea what to do. There were dozens of emails being exchanged every day from faculty who had no idea how to handle this. What do we do? How do we do this? But the fact is that the world changed in the last couple of months, and education has become online.
Mm-hmm. That's you're saying that education is online. It's been going online for a while now. But would you agree that students studying abroad go there not just for but also for the campus experience as well? And how is that going to change?
Yeah, that's a big problem, because effectively our students are being shortchanged. They didn't come here to stay in their little dorm rooms or their awful apartments and go on a small screen and be listening to their professors. They could have done that back in Bangalore or in Wuhan. So this is a big problem for our students, that they're missing out on the experience. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the
Okay. So, how do you think post this pandemic, universities are going to reassure students that their campuses are safe?
Well, I think that this pandemic will blow over, because we will build immunity. If you look at the data now, 21% of New York has antibodies, which means that 21% of the population has already been exposed to the virus, and they didn't show a strong reaction to it, or they recovered from it. Now, soon, 70, 80% of the population will get there, and then you'll build herd immunity, and we'll get over this pandemic. So this will come and this will go. And we'll have vaccines, we'll have all sorts of technology advances. We can have a separate discussion on that. But this one will pass, but there will be future pandemics. But getting back to the question you asked earlier, that the change that has occurred is fundamental now. That forever now we know that we can teach online, that we know that we can get all the knowledge we want from anywhere in the world, and that we can start evolving the education system. This is a permanent change now.
Yes, but I can understand that happening for, let's say, the arts and the humanities. But what happens to subjects where you actually need practical, hands-on kind of teaching? I mean, for engineering and medicine and stuff like that.
Ram, the subjects I teach are I teach the most advanced course on exponential technologies in the world. Literally, teach our students everything from artificial intelligence to networks, sensors, robotics, nanotechnologies, quantum computing. We teach them how technologies converge, and when they converge, they disrupt industries. And then we teach them methods of management, the latest techniques in innovation and management. And the goal is to teach these students how to change the world, how to get them to now brainstorm, how to crowdsource ideas, and to solve global problems. So mine is one of the most difficult courses you could possibly have in terms of needing interactivity. We get our students to be in groups from the beginning of the semester. We get them to be in groups of 5. Normally the way professors teach is that you do these lectures, students go back and rectify everything, they memorize, it's rote and memorization, and then they do exams. I don't do any of that. The way Tarun and I teach is that we get our students to be in groups of 5, and then we pose challenges to them every week, and they're required to meet with each other and brainstorm, and then they come back and they present their challenges. Instead of assignments, what we do is we have them write blog posts. We first put it on Medium so that it's anonymous, and then after we have given them feedback and had them improve it, we have them put it on their LinkedIn profiles. So
Okay.
their class assignments are now on their resumes essentially. So that causes a complete different change in behavior, because no longer are they doing assignments that no one's going to read. They're now having to really think about what they say, and they're really having to work with other people as a team. So this is my curriculum. Imagine now going from regular classroom meetings, and which we would get groups to meet offline and do all of this, to suddenly having to do this online. We figured it out. We could do it. So our students, I don't know what the feedback is going to be. I expect that they're going to give us, in previous semesters, our classes have been the highest ranked, not only in the entire School of Engineering, but amongst the highest ranked in the entire university. I expect that we're going to get the same feedback from students this semester, because we've had them now work. You say there's no reason why they can't communicate in groups online. They're just like you and
Uh-huh.
I. You can have groups of 5 people here, and they can be talking online. There's no reason why they can't be doing web searches and studying online. So this is what we did. We transformed our entire curriculum to an online curriculum. So the point I'm making to answer your question is that if we can do it for this really advanced course.
Hmm. But I was thinking, I
We
was
can do it for
asking a
almost
separate.
any.
Yes, but I was asking a slightly separate kind of a question. That when you have something like medicine, where you actually have to touch things and feel things, how do you do replicate that at people's, I mean, online?
That's much harder, because if you're going to have to build things, we still have to do that. Now, when it comes to medicine, actually, if you move forward 3 or 4 years, virtual reality will advance to the point that you can go in and do medical experiments in virtual reality. I mean, this sounds like it's out of science fiction, but imagine dissecting a body in in with a headset on. This sort of technology would be available in the next 4 or 5 years. So we're going to be doing a lot more in virtual reality things. But getting to your point, nothing takes care of the real world experience. So you do need a mix of it. And also, education can't be all online, because a lot of it is teamwork, team building. This gets back to ancient Indian philosophy and wisdom, that we had the guru, we had the shikshak, we had the disciple, and it was
Hmm.
always a one-on-one thing. Now, technology is going to change some of that, so that a lot of the one-to-one is going to be done using artificial intelligence and virtual reality, and a lot of it
Hmm.
will be done the way we're doing right now. But still, the human aspect of it can't be changed. So you still need to have people getting together physically and meeting each other, conversing with each other. So it may become 70-30 or 80-20, where a lot of the knowledge transfer is done online. However, the team building, the human part of it is done in person. You can never replace that. No AI, no virtual reality will ever replace the human element.
Because not everybody can get a 3D printer or something to start working on those things, because I mean, that would be difficult.
The
But
cost
do
of
you
these
think
technologies will drop to the point that everyone can get it, because the fact is that even the poorest of the poor in India now can watch this broadcast. that if
Hmm.
you, no matter where you are in India now, you have a smartphone and you have internet access. So you can be watching this, right? This 5 years ago, this was not imaginable because internet was so expensive, smartphones were so expensive. Now, literally, the beggars have smartphones. Soon they're going to be demanding you give them, money via QR codes or Paytm, right? So this is how much things have changed in the last 5 years. If you move forward another 5 years, you'll have another revolutionary set of changes by which everyone will have access to advanced technologies in their homes, in their villages, and we can revolutionize education. This is a huge opportunity that entrepreneurs have to transform India, by the way.
Okay, coming back to India, you have a lot of students who have sort of come back home just before the lockdown. Some of them are still locked down in the US. What kind of advice would you have for them?
Ram, this is a much more difficult question because it used to be that students came to the United States. I've been researching immigration for the last 15 years or so. I published many papers which looked at the success of Silicon Valley. What I documented was that 52% of the startups in Silicon Valley were founded by immigrants. And the largest founding group were Indians. About 26% of that cohort were Indians. Indians were conquering Silicon Valley as far as innovation goes. And the reason students came to the United States was to learn, and then they fell in love with the country and ended up staying. That's how it used to
Right.
be 15, 20 years ago. And that's what made Silicon Valley what it is. That's what gave America a strategic global advantage. But over the last 10 or 15 years, the country became nativist. The immigration policies became deeply flawed to the point that we started turning immigrants away. I wrote a book called Immigrant Exodus, which documented this trend. What I predicted was that within, by 2020 or so, the tide would have turned. That students wouldn't want to be here anymore. They wouldn't want to come here because they won't be allowed to stay, and that the innovation centers would move to China and to India. That's exactly what happened. All the things I wrote about have happened. So now with Donald Trump and what's happening, we went from bad to worse. It became xenophobic. Now they've shut off all immigration, and where as of today, immigration has been shut down. This is really stupid immigration policy because America was getting a free gift from the world. That the world's best and brightest were coming to America and bringing their knowledge, their talent, their money with them. Now it doesn't make sense anymore. So students that were coming here to become, to gain the American experience and to get practical work experience here and then to stay here, forget it. That door is closed for you. And even if Joe Biden wins or the Democrats win, it's not going to matter because what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years is that the economy is going to be very weak. And whenever economies are weak, you always blame immigrants. The same thing happened in India, by the way. The same thing. It's not only America. India also has become xenophobic. It also has been attacking foreigners. So I can attack America, but India has to look at itself in the mirror and look at what it's been doing. It's the same in every part of the world. We're human beings. Human beings are imperfect animals, and we do stupid things.
Mhm.
So this is what's happening right now in America and the rest of the world. So immigration is not going to change in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. So the next cohort of students, if they want to come to immigrate, forget it. This is not the place for you. If you're coming to America, come here strictly to learn and to get that experience we were talking about of interacting
Mhm.
with other people.
So you think the so-called American dream has changed fundamentally?
The American immigration dream for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years is in hibernation. That
Hmm.
immigrants can no longer come here the way they did before and share in its success. But this will change because America goes through cycles of this. That what happens is that immigrants built this great country, and then whenever they came here, they were resented because they took jobs away, or that's what the fear was. When the economy starts getting weaker, you start blaming immigrants for taking jobs away, and then the economy does well again, and everyone starts cheering immigrants again, saying, "Bring us more, bring us more." They give us an advantage. So it goes through cycles. America's going to go through the same cycle. It's going to wake up again and it's going to welcome immigrants again. But it may take as long as 5 years before that change happens. So again, for the cohort of students that are thinking of coming here the short term, forget it. America is not welcoming you. And I apologize on behalf of America because this is just the way things go.
We have a question coming in from Swamitra Mishra, who's asking that, who's actually praising you, and then he's saying that after this crisis, will China remain a preferred destination for Indian students to study abroad?
No, China is the worst of the worst of the worst. I mean, China already is becoming xenophobic. Look at the way they've been attacking Africans. I mean, just Google China and Africans, and what they've been doing is they've been blaming foreigners, Africans, for the coronavirus. They invented this bloody thing, and now they're blaming the Africans for doing this to them. Right? The next thing they're going to start
Hmm.
blaming the Indians. They're going to start blaming the Americans. I wouldn't recommend anyone go to China now because it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Its economy is going to start sinking because suddenly now there's an urgent need for America and Europe to move manufacturing out of China, which means that a third of the economy is going to start imploding because suddenly they're not going to get the free lunch that they've had. And then Americans and Indians and Europeans don't trust China anymore. So they're not going to let it steal intellectual property the way it did before. So it's going to lose a lot of the advantages it had before. So China is going to become more xenophobic, more nationalistic. I wouldn't advise anyone to go to China.
But you mentioned factory of the world that China was, but a Chinese professor once told me that they don't no longer want to be a factory of the world because they've going into investing very heavily in robotics and artificial intelligence and things like that. That would be the cutting edge stuff that most people would want to learn, even from outside. I mean, is that a
Yeah, the world is not going to let China steal from it the way it did before. So that free lunch is over. So China may want to advance there, but the fact is the vast majority of its economy right now still depends on manufacturing. And manufacturing
Mhm.
is sort of returned to Western shores, and it may even move to India to a large extent if India can get its act together.
Okay. So let's look at it from the U.S. universities' point of view. How will this impact their sort of outlook towards students coming
You
in?
know, as I tweeted last night, that the free lunch for American universities is over. That they would
Hmm.
get Indian and Chinese students coming there and paying full price. You know what happens here? Like I live in California. If you're go to UC Berkeley, you pay in-state tuition. In-state tuition is about a third
Sorry, we seem to have lost him for a
or
couple of seconds.
yeah. I'm still
Yeah,
here.
you're
Okay.
back. Mm.
So foreigners coming here pay two, three, four times as much as American students do for the same education. So American universities could make big profits from foreign students. This is why almost gave that. They don't say they did this, but this was the money maker for them. So they would give preference to high-paying students. Again, this is not the official policy, but this is effectively what happened over here. Well, now that the Chinese are not welcome here,
Hmm.
structures will have to adjust their business models, and they'll have to
Hmm.
now focus on providing affordable education to American students, which is a
Right.
good thing for America and America. I'm here.
Hmm. Okay. So President Trump has already announced a sort of a ban on temporary ban on immigrants and things like that. Does that impact students as well in many ways? I mean, does that sort of people
Yeah,
who, as you mentioned, who are coming in?
yeah. Are you kidding? Because students, when they come here, they take big loans from their family, or they may take loans from banks or so on to come here, and then they want to pay them off. So in the past, you would work for 2 or 3 years on an OPT visa, and then you'd hope to get an H-1B visa, and then you'd hope to get a green card. Well,
Uh-huh.
President Trump has just closed the doors on immigration. Now, I don't know what it means for OPT visas, but I tell you, American companies are no longer looking at foreign students as potential recruits because they know that the doors are closed. So these students now are in a state of panic because they have no choice but to leave. And so now this semester is horrible for them because not only can't they go to university to get the experience they came for, they're locked up in their apartments and so on, and then they may not be able to get visas, and the jobs aren't there. So it's really become very difficult for students, and it'll be like this for the next year or two.
Uh-huh. But we were talking about America all this time. A lot of Indian students also tend to go to other countries in Europe and Australia and all those places. Do you think they might pick up some of the slack?
They might, but it's not the same. You go to Europe, and Europe. The reason why people came to America is because America is a melting pot. It's an amazing place to be. That even with the xenophobia you read about, America is not xenophobic. America is a welcome. is a wonderful, welcoming place that you can be here and you're equal to everyone. People don't treat you with suspicion or disrespect. Yes, there are a few, wackos. The extremists here, just like they are in India. You have the same problem in India, by the way. You've got the extremists, right? You've
Hmm.
got the same problem over here. But by and large, the country is very welcome, very, open and so on. And the education system is amazing. This is why students came over here.
Hmm.
Australia, you go to
Hmm.
Australia. I studied in Australia, by the way. You'll find that the schools are filled. The colleges that are admitting students, it's all Indian and Chinese. Why do you need to go to Australia to get be in class with 100 Indians when you can do that in Bangalore, right? So Australian education, there are some good schools and so on, but Europe, it's very difficult to merge in or to really be one with the thing. So America used to be the best place to come to study. There's no real good second to America.
Okay, now let's look at it from the Indian perspective. Do you think Indian universities should see this as an opportunity to sort of also, improve their things and get students on board here? I mean, do you see that happening?
This is a wonderful opportunity for India right now to build an amazing education system. That what India could be doing is to these professors, because universities are going to be downsizing over here. A lot of the top professors here are Indians. I mean, when Indians come here, they're amazed that the deans of universities, presidents of universities are Indians, top academics are Indians, top scientists are Indians, right? A lot of those people are going to want to come back to India right now. So if India can open up new universities and bring in the Western curriculums and the Western ways of teaching and so on, it can have a big advantage. And by the way, Ram, I want to take a detour because I was in India in October and then again in December, and I met with Professor Anil. I can't pronounce his last name. The chairman of the AICTE. Shab,
Okay.
he's going to be very angry if he sees this. Shab Subhade. And I met with
Hmm.
Amitabh Kant, the head of why am I forgetting this? The head of the National Planning Commission. What's
Right.
it called? Uh, I'm getting old, my friend. I
Niti
mean,
Ayog. Niti Ayog.
Niti Ayog, absolutely. And I made a big offer to them because I've been studying Indian education and I have the most advanced curriculum in the world. I offered it to India. Basically, what I said was that, look, I want to gift this to India, that we could actually create a 1 year course from this, which teaches students about all the amazing technologies. And if India implemented this, students from all over the world would want to come to India to learn there because it's the most advanced curriculum in advancing technologies in the world. Over the next few weeks, Ram, you are connecting with Tarun. I want to make some of my lectures available to Indian students so they can see what I teach and how I teach it, how Tarun and I teach it. You should, do a follow-up post on that and make some of the curriculum available so Indians can see exactly what I'm teaching and how they can learn this and how it gives them a strategic advantage. So what we need is more people like me, more professors like me offering their curriculum to India, and we need to now have India become the world leader in education. If India can become the IT powerhouse it became, why can't it become the education powerhouse? I know the AICTE and Niti Aayog, all of these organizations are very open to it. That often they're criticized for being closed-minded. They're not. The
Okay.
people that I've met in the Indian education sector are very open-minded. They want to revolutionize Indian education. They want to take it to the next leap. Well, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's bring the most advanced education systems to India. I mean, if you look at what Ronnie Screwwala is doing with Upgrad and a lot of these startups over there, they're doing some amazing work. I mean, it's world-class, education startups that have been started in India. Well, let's make India a hub for education. Let's have a goal that within 5 years, India becomes the place to come to for the world's most advanced education. India can do this. So that's what
Okay.
the goal has to be.
That's nice to hear. But do you see a lot of joint sort of degrees and things coming up that's already there in place? But do you see that happening a lot with the tie-ups between American and Indian universities offering joint degrees?
But then why do you need it? I mean, why have an inferiority complex? The reason why Indian universities do that is because they have an inferiority complex. They think that if they can associate with a big name university in the West, their value will increase. That's the old thinking. I mean, why not now
Hmm.
have the best universities being founded in India so that you have American universities and European universities that want to affiliate with these Indian universities, that they come to India to say, hey, can we do a tie-up with you so we can have the reputation that you have? That's what India's goal should be. Get over this, inferiority complex that the British left with India. Get over it. India can lead the world. It doesn't have to be at the mercy of its white masters to give it credibility. India should lead
Mhm.
the world in education. It should lead the world in these things, and it should give back to the world.
So where do you see the sort of bottlenecks? You just mentioned that you met, senior people here. Are those the people who are pushing back against this, or is it the institution sort of, old institutional pushback, or where is the pushback?
No, Ram, I didn't see any pushback. The people I met were very open-minded. I met many deans, many chancellors of universities. I met the Niti Aayog executives. They were all as open-minded as could be. So I don't see any bottlenecks. I think we just have to, make it happen. Again, I was so touched by what I saw that I decided to donate my entire curriculum. I mean, I could have licensed this for millions of dollars. I said, no, I'm going to give it away to India. This is my gift to India. That I'm an American now. My loyalties are to America, but I'm still an Indian at heart. I still want to, India, to see India succeed and prosper, and I want to see Indian students rise and not have to come to America for advanced education. So I made the contribution. So now with this, coronavirus, everything has been set back. Priorities have changed. Hopefully next year we can restart conversations and I can make it available in India. But this is what we need to have happen: is we need to bring the best ideas from all over the world to India and make it happen. India is open to it. I have again seen no resistance whatsoever from over there.
Oh, okay, but we do have certain institutionalized systems in place, which are slowly, I suppose, slowly being eroded. But do you see what kind of time frame are you looking at for this to sort of take off? I mean, if it were to take off post this pandemic.
I would have a goal of within 5 years transforming Indian education. That maybe you leave the old stuff there, leave the IITs, IIMs the way they are, but let's create the next generation. Let's create the Carnegie Mellons, the Harvards in India, and start afresh and bring in new curriculum, new thinking, and again, you bring some faculty back from the West. You take the top Indian faculty, you bring people in from all over the world, and you rethink it. And because technology, by the way, I have a book called Driving the Driverless Car. The Indian edition of that is
Yes.
available. It's up to date. That talks
Yes.
about all the amazing technology advances that are possible. That's the future. India doesn't want to now catch up to yesterday. We don't want yesterday's engineering curriculum. We don't want yesterday's humanities curriculum. Forget all that nonsense. Let's move forward now. Let's plan for the future, and let's now teach Indian students how to build advancing technologies that can disrupt the entire world, that can better the world. So we build new universities, new curriculum, which are focused on the forward. So India doesn't catch up; it leapfrogs the West in education. That's what India should be doing right now.
What kind of infrastructural needs would be there for something like this to happen?
There's no magic required here. You just, it's all about people. If I can teach my curriculum online, again, hopefully you'll post samples of this in the next few weeks. If I can teach online, there's no requirement here. I mean, technology has become cheap now. You have people are watching this on smartphones. Those smartphones are more
Right.
powerful than the Cray supercomputers of the 1970s. In the 1970s, there were export restrictions to India. You couldn't export supercomputers. The phones you have in your hands are something like 40 times more powerful than those Cray supercomputers were. Everyone can afford them now. So all the
Hmm.
technologies you mentioned, 3D printers, 3D printers are becoming dirt cheap. Within 2 or 3 years, they'll cost as much as smartphones do. Virtual reality headsets, they'll cost as much as smartphones do in the next 3 or 4 years. So all the technologies necessary for this are available. There's no reason why India can't do this starting today, literally.
Oh, I mean, since you also happen to be, a technology and entrepreneur and things like that at one end, what do you think 5G is going to do to this education system? Is that going to be a
Ram, 5G is overhyped. I mean, if you have Wi-Fi, fast Wi-Fi, you already have everything you need. I mean, this is something which the vendors have been putting out. The internet connections I get in in New Delhi and Bangalore, believe it or not, on my smartphone when I'm there, are better than what I get in Silicon Valley. I mean, look at the choppiness of the video over here. I'm on AT&T right now, and but I'm supposed to have 60 megabit internet access, yet it sucks. You have better access in India than we have over here in Silicon Valley. So it's fast enough to do everything. The
That's
fact is,
nice to hear. A lot of people might disagree with you, but
I know they
that's
disagree,
really,
but
really very nice to hear.
When I tweet this, I get attacked from India saying, "Have you used?" I said, "Yes." Have you come to Silicon Valley and used the pathetic internet over here? So Indians always have an inferiority complex about everything Indian. And yes, it's irregular and it's choppy and so on, but don't feel inferior here. I mean, you have it pretty good over there. But regardless, getting back to your question about 5G, 5G will make it faster. But what we have today with 4G LTE is fast enough to do almost everything you need to do. So 5G, there's no magic here. It's overhyped nonsense. So you can do everything you need to do with fast Wi-Fi and with LTE today, and you got it all over India today. So there's no reason not to be building all these advanced systems today.
Yes, but that's interesting because there was one report which said that India produces a whole bunch of engineers every year, millions of them, but a whole bunch of them are unemployable because they don't have the other kind of skills. How does one resolve that?
Ramanan, I published a seminal research on that. If you go back and look at the research I did on India's education system, I
That's
published
right.
several
Yes.
papers in the most prestigious publications on this. That what India did, what I documented was that the vast majority of graduating students from Indian colleges didn't have the skills necessary to be in the workforce. But what did India do doing was they started doing onboarding programs to re-educate the Indians. If you Google the words how the disciple became a guru, I wrote a paper about how India's IT industry was reskilling its workforce. India learned to compensate for its weak education system. So what I'm saying is that you build new universities, new curriculum, which have the latest and greatest technologies there. I'm volunteering my curriculum to India, and you move forward.
Hmm.
Forget about the past. Forget about apologizing for what it is. Forget the inferiority complexes. Move forward. Look at what's possible today and rebuild the education system and leap ahead of the rest of the world and then help the rest of the world by solving the grand challenges of humanity. That's my message to India.
Well, that's a great message to sort of look at. But I'll ask you one sort of a last question here. I mean, this is since we are sort of since you already have something else lined up, I believe that in a fundamental way, in a very, very fundamental way, do you see education worldwide changing, or are you just in a much broader perspective? What are the three big changes you expect to see in education worldwide, higher education particularly?
Right, the coronavirus was like an earthquake that hit the education system worldwide because suddenly it was forced online. It would have taken a decade for education to move online because the universities move at the pace of molasses. They're very slow. They don't they teach advancing technologies, they teach engineering, but they don't apply it to themselves. So an earthquake happened in the education sector. Suddenly now there's a realization that you can teach online. So number one, the change has already happened, and it's going to this is a permanent change. The next generation, the next changes are going to be with AI, artificial intelligence, and with virtual reality. In my book, Driving the Driverless Car, I have an entire chapter on the future of education. What I talked about was how you're going to have educational avatars that do the knowledge transfer. That some students like reading books, others like playing games, others like watching videos, others like doing things. Well, the system will adapt to you. The AI will teach you in the way you learn most effectively. And then you're going to have the human element of it. You're still going to have the guru, the coach, teaching you the personal skills and teaching you all of that. So it's going to be a hybrid system. All of these things are going to happen in the next 5 years. So changes are set in place. India can lead these changes, and India can really transform not only its education system but that of the world, just like it did with IT. India became an IT superpower because its engineers, its entrepreneurs took advantage of the opportunities. That same opportunity exists with education today. That with this pandemic, earthquake, and with technology, it's time to now rethink education and bring it into the 21st century.
Well, that's a very, very positive kind of a note to sort of end this conversation with. I would be truly grateful if you would consider coming back to us, sometime in the future, because we have a lot to talk about in terms of how education can think, and I'm sure there's a lot of interest in the way you are approaching the whole issue. So thank you very, very much for being with us. I really appreciate it, and it's a delight to have you. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ram. It was good to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah.